Welcome to the MADA Safety Training site on the MADA Loss Control YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to talk about the importance of maintaining emergency equipment. We're going to talk about tips for properly maintaining dealership safety equipment, including eye wash stations, fire extinguishers, automatic external defibrillators, etc. Dealership equipment provided for emergencies include eye wash stations, fire extinguishers, AEDs, first aid supplies, alarm, pull stations, etc., and other equipment. Let's talk about eye wash stations. Stations need to be kept clear and accessible at all times. Never block access to an eye wash station. When you need to use an eye wash station, it's going to be because you have something in your eyes and you won't be able to see. So keep the path to the eye wash station clear and accessible at all times. Eye wash stations need to be properly maintained also to make sure that they'll work when you need them. Eye wash stations should be checked for flow and operation at least monthly. Best to flow water for 30 seconds to a minute to flush the water out and clean the lines to the station. If eye wash stations are not used for an extended period of time, calcium and other minerals in the water can build up in the eye wash station and can plug it and render it inoperative. In the event it's a self-contained eye wash station, check monthly for fluid level and make sure that the solution is still within its useful date and not expired. Check flow briefly, but don't run low. If it's a self-contained station, don't run it for a minute and then run the tank dry. There's no need to flush it such as that, other than just to check and confirm that it works as necessary, as it is supposed to. Keep eye wash stations clean and sanitary. All stations should be checked and cleaned at least weekly. Here's an illustration on the right side of that slide. It kind of shows you an example of an eye wash that's obviously not properly taken care of. How would you like that stuff in your eyes? Let's talk a little bit about fire extinguishers. Make sure that all employees have been trained on fire extinguisher use when they first start work and then every year after. Fire extinguishers should be mounted, clearly marked, and completely accessible. Never store materials, parts, or trash cans within 3 feet of a fire extinguisher. Make sure enough fire extinguishers are provided, one every 50 feet of travel distance in service parts and body shop, one every 75 feet on showrooms and in offices. Check fire extinguishers monthly. Are they there? Are they there? Is there any damage? Were they inspected within the last 12 months? And is the pressure gauge in the green? Is there any indication that the fire extinguisher may not function as it needs to? Can you get to it? How is the housekeeping around it? Is there a clear path to the fire extinguishers? Make sure they're well marked so that they can be seen. When fires happen and people get excited, the last thing that they remember is where the fire extinguishers are located. So that's why they're red. That's why they need to have a label indicating where the fire extinguisher is, and they need to be out in the open and clearly accessible. There's also training materials on the MADA Loss Control channel, this channel here, on fire extinguisher use, and a test on the MADA website that you can use to train your employees on fire extinguisher use annually. Let's talk a little bit about first aid supplies. Most dealerships provide at least some first aid supplies. Most first aid cabinets sold by vendors have way more stuff in it than that's actually required. Just if you have a dealership that's well equipped like that, just take a minute to thank your manager for providing the materials and providing the product for you to use. It's very important to know where the first aid supplies are kept by the dealership. If you're attempting to help a coworker with first aid, you need to adhere to the dealership's bloodborne pathogen standard of care and use the proper personal protective equipment that is required when working with blood and other bodily fluids. Help keep first aid cabinets clear, clean, and stocked. If you use a last band-aid, glove, etc., tell your supervisor. Don't use all the supplies up and then none left for the next person. And again, like I said, the first aid supplies aren't actually required by regulations. If you've got a nice supply cabinet, let's take care of it. Let's talk a little bit about alarms and other safety equipment. Most dealerships have a lot of different alarms through the facility. It could be a public address system for covering emergencies and disseminating information such as workplace violence, fires or severe weather threats. There's also alarms on fire alarms and smoke alarms. There may be carbon monoxide alarms in the work areas, such as service department and body shop. There's probably a carbon monoxide alarm in the body shop on certain respirator systems. All of these alarms need to be kept in good shape. They need to be tested within the time periods of when they're supposed to be tested. And you need to know exactly what the alarm is signifying and when it's going to go off and what it's trying to tell you. Make sure to keep all alarm panels and pull stations clean and clear. Nothing stored within 36 inches. Again, let's keep them accessible where they can be gotten to. And then managers, make sure to provide training to your employees on alarms in their area, when they will sound, and exactly what they signify. And that's a subject for another training session, but is it a fire alarm, and what should the employee do? Do they shelter in place because of severe weather? Do they evacuate? And if they evacuate, where do they go to? So, topic for another training meeting. But training is another training video, but training is very important on the topics of alarms and what they mean with employees. In conclusion, keep the equipment that exists for your protection in good condition, clean and accessible. Know where the iWash station's first aid supplies and fire extinguishers are located before you need them. Don't wait until you have a fire and you're excited to try to figure out where the fire extinguishers are. It's a good idea to locate the ones closest to your work area prior to an emergency occurring. Know what alarms exist for protection, when they'll be used, and finally, just take care of the equipment so it can take care of you. Okay, this concludes our training video on emergency equipment. So we hope and wish everybody a safe and productive day. Thank you.